Hi, this is Joe Chambers. Welcome to Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage. Today's clip is previously seen material we did. It was one of our very first backstage shows. My good friend Garth Brooks, before we had ever even shot a show, agreed to be one of our guests. And at the time we shot this, we were not adding photographs to enhance the video as we do now. And so I got with Jay McDowell, our editor, and we have gone back. We wanted to focus really on the G-men, the Garth men, or the session musicians that played on all of Garth's records. And are now actually some of them are on the road with him on some of the big concerts they're doing in the stadiums. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you do, be sure to hit like, subscribe, the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content. Once again, Garth Brooks with the G-men.
So when we get our record deal, the first guy I go to is a guy that's been mentoring me this whole time, Jerry Kennedy, because I know his boy, Brian, and hanging around, of course, everybody knows Gordon because of the guitar work and the songwriting thing he does. And then, of course, Shelby is already working his way into administration in this town. So you knew the whole family. And when we went over there to tell him, we got signed by Capitol, he said, "I'm out." I'm like, "What?" He says, "I'm out." He goes, "Me and those guys don't get along." I said, "Are you kidding me?" He goes, "No." I said, "Well, I don't want to do this without you." He says, "Look, they're going to give you a list of about 10 names. Producers, bring that list over to me when they do." Sure enough, they gave me a list, about 10 names. He went over there, circled them, circled them, circled them. He said, "Any of these guys can see you, take it." One of those 5 names he had circled was Allen Reynolds. Allen was the first guy that could see us. So we went over to what was Jack's Tracks. At that time, we were 16th and Horton. Bob and I went upstairs, talked to Allen. When I came out of the room, I looked at Bob. I said, "No offense to the other guys, but if that guy wants to take it on," because that's a good dude. You could just feel it when you met him. And it was good. And so that's how it began for us. And Allen Reynolds was so sweet. He said, "I tell you what, I'll produce 3 songs on the guy. If the label doesn't like them, I'll buy them. I'll eat them. They'll be gone." And for somebody who didn't have any money, that was a big, huge step. And I said, "Thank you. I'll take you up on that." And it was cool. And the first song we cut was "Not Counting You," which turned out to be the first song on the first album and the opening song of the first tour. So that song, as little attention as it gets, played a huge role in our career.
Allen signs you or takes you in. How did you get the G-men?
So Allen and I are sitting and he goes, we're talking about players. I said, "Allen, there's only one guy that's been on every session for me, demos, everything that I need." I said, he's the bass player. And Allen kind of smiles at me and he says, "The only guy that I'm going to hold tight on is the bass player too." And I thought, well, we're dead. And I said it was Mike Chapman. And it's cool. He spun his paper around, pushed it over, and in bass he has Mike Chapman. So that was a good thing right there. That's when he told me about Mike has a brother from another mother kind of thing, a guy named Milton Sledge. Kind of they breathe in, breathe out together, Muscle Shoals guys. He says, "I use a guy named Chris Lusinger on all the crystal stuff." He says, "I really feel like he's got a sound that's untapped and can go a lot, can expand out a lot further that you want to go." I said, "Okay." He said, "How about piano playing?" He says, "It's got to be Bobby Wood." He said, "Bobby Wood's got the touch that you'll like." Because, you're doing kind of guitar demos with him. He said, "I'm going to try a guy named Mark Castevens on acoustic." And we tried Mark, and he also liked Johnny Christopher. And he also liked Pat Alger, who was right in the building as a writer for him anyway. And funny, we ended up using Christopher and Alger on the Thunder Rolls, and used Johnny Christopher on Unanswered Prayers, and then brought Cass Stevens back to overdub on it and kind of stayed with Cass Stevens from there forward. And then the only guy that, had left were the 2 specialty guys, steel and fiddle. And he'd brought in Buddy Spiker. Buddy Spiker was a great guy, but Rob had done all of our demos for us. And so he said, "You want to give your guy a chance?" I said, "I'd love to." Rob came in and Allen just fell in love with him. They communicated very well. Come to find out, Rob is classically trained talk about a hillbilly fiddler, but he's classically trained, so him and Allen were on perfect wavelength. And then Bruce Boughton, steel player, he'd done some stuff for Kathy Mattea, which Allen was doing as well. And he said, this cat's got a really kind of a smooth style, and he can play all kinds of steel styles, from Western swing, straight country, and he's from the East. He's from Virginia, so he also knows the Appalachian stuff and stuff too. So it was cool, man. And that was the assemblance of the G-Man, the 7 guys. One of the most important one, though, was the guy that sat at the board. It was Mark Miller. Mm-hmm. And Mark was just somebody that Allen found that loved music, was a guitar player himself and a good one. But they got along great. And Allen trusted Mark's hearing for miking stuff. And also his specialty was mixing, man. Unbelievable mixer. And Allen would never let him use automation. So he had to play his board like the guys played their instrument. So when we all sit up here on the stage, I looked around and said, this is good that all these guys were included. I forgot one guy in the whole thing that should have been in with the G-Man, because without this person, my sound would not be what it was. I looked right at her, and it's Trisha. No. She sang on over 77 songs of ours, of the first 100 ones. So she has been that Garth sound forever. That's that harmony, that's that sound. And that's the only regret I had from that night, was she should have been in on it, because, man, background vocalists, and even though she's an artist herself, background vocals like Patti Lovelace's to Vince, you don't get to where you're at without those singers and those voices. Same way you don't get to where you're at without those guitar players and those drummers. So that was my only miss for the night, but that's the G-Men, including Mark Miller and Allen Reynolds, and I'm lucky to have known them in a pretty damn good time for us and for country music.